How you say your name correctly? Your last name?
Demientieff.
Demientieff? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's 9:07, so you know what time it is, Alaska time. Thank you, Miss Bernadette, for taking a few moments out of your busy schedule to come sit down with us. Beautiful Alaska Natives group chat interviews. Before we start, for those eager to dive into Miss Bernadette, where can you be found online?
I have, under my work, the Goshen Steering Committee, we are under the ourarcticrefuge.org. And then I have Facebook is Bernadette Demientieff. And on Instagram, it's Berna_Demientieff.
Okay. So you are a nation leader representative from Alaska, correct?
Correct. I represent 14 communities throughout Alaska and Canada.
Okay, which ones are those?
Oh, there is Chalkitsik, Fort Yukon, just the Yukon Flats, Circle, Beaver, Birch Creek, Veneti Arctic Village in Alaska, Eagle also, and in Canada there's Aklavik, Inuvik, McPherson, Old Crow, and Segachik, Northwest Territory. So those are the, there used to be 17 bands of Gwich'in, and some of us, we migrated together. There's like a couple of different tribes, we just banded together.
That's good. Busy lady, huh?
Yeah, very.
So, where in Alaska did you originate?
So I'm originally from Fort Yukon, which is 8 miles above the Arctic Circle, but I live in Fairbanks, Alaska with my husband and my children.
How many kids you got?
I have five children, and one just recently passed away in November, and then I have 5 grandchildren also. Very
blessed.
Yes, I am very much. It's a hard time right now, but I still am very grateful for my blessings that I do have.
So what is your primary mission?
Sure. So at the very first Gwich'in gathering that was held in over 150 years, it was in 1988, and this is when the Gwich'in Nation, elders and chiefs, they gathered in Arctic Village because of the threat to the calving grounds of the porcupine caribou herd. The Gwich'in and the caribou have had a spiritual and cultural connection since time immemorial. And so if you look at the migratory route of the caribou and the Gwich'in communities, they're identical. It's amazing. The only thing is we do not go to the calving grounds. That is sacred land to us. And that is where the caribou give birth. That's their calving and nursery grounds. And so back in 88 and prior, we had all these outsiders coming in telling us that we'll be getting all this money, and a couple of our elders were like, well, we are already rich in our culture. We're rich in our ways of life. And so they organized the Gwich'in Steering Committee, which has 4 Canadian board members and 4 U.S. board members. And our mandate is to protect the porcupine caribou herd and their calving grounds. So we do a lot. We work to go to Washington, D.C., where we speak with congressional leaders to have them help us protect our sacred lands. And we're also going to the United Nations, and we have recently been reaching out to Indigenous allies throughout the country and international to come and stand with us. I kind of feel like no matter where you look around the world or around this country, there's a lot of oppression and continued injustices against the indigenous peoples of these lands.
Yeah, I agree. So, what guided you to find your position in this focus?
It came to me. You know, as a Gwich'in, we were always raised to protect the calving grounds, which everybody else knows as the Arctic Refuge. To us, it's called Ijikwasan Gondai Gotlit, the sacred place where life begins. And so I don't ever remember any of my elders or my parents or anybody sitting me down telling me this place is sacred, you have to protect it. I always known it in my heart. But just like I want to say about 7 years ago, I went home. I went home to Fort Yukon, and I started seeing a lot of changes in our land. And then 4 years ago, I go home, and there's a big island in the middle of our river, which was never there.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Our river is like way far away, and so just in my heart, I just kind of started talking. You know, I felt like I needed to talk to our leaders, which is our elders, and I just saw the seriousness. And then on top of that, I'm a grandmother, and I started asking myself, what kind of environment am I going to leave my children in?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want my grandchildren someday to ask me, Grandma, what did you do? When you had a chance to do something, what did you do? I want to be able to tell them that I've done everything that I can. And, you know, our voice is one of the most powerful tools that we have. And although many of us, because we don't just fall in line, you know, are on the bandwagon, as some people would say, and just allow all these destructions and disturbances to our homelands happen, you know, we get branded as environmentalists or activists. I'm neither one of those. I'm just a grandmother. I'm a mother that cares. And, you know, I don't only use my voice for my people, but I use it for our animals as well, because they can't tell us that we're hurting them or we're hurting their habitat. Creator blessed us all with the ability to live in beautiful places, and we should take care of that.
Yeah.
That's just something so many of us forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, that's right. Well, now that we know a little bit about the who and what, let's backtrack a bit and dive in a little deeper into the who of you. How does it feel to be in your position coming from and representing Alaska?
I'll choose my words carefully because I want to be respectful, but it's not easy, especially when we're in an oil-dependent state. And especially when, you know, everybody always, oh, you use oil. Yes, we do use oil. That is something that we all are guilty of. But we don't have to destroy everything to continue that, especially when we have other options, renewable resources. There's always going to be an issue with indigenous peoples when you're trying to go into their homelands and destroying especially sacred places. But if you look across the country and across the world, we are always the first to be impacted negatively. And our voices are always dismissed. And, you know, it really makes my heart very humbled and honored to have met a lot of the people that have taken it upon themselves to speak up. And, you know, in Alaska, it's a sensitive subject because many of us were born into corporations.
Yeah.
And corporations are for profit. But it doesn't have to always be for profit with oil. They can look into different, you know, different issues or different ways to make money.
Yeah.
We have to, when it comes down to it, our ancestors, they fought and survived so that we can be here, right? And so we owe that same dedication and respect to our future generations.
Yeah.
We can't just destroy and leave them in a land that's got dirty air, contaminated water, sick animals, and sick land. And after high school, I didn't. I dealt with a lot in life, and I can't make excuses. I lost my brother to suicide, and I went down a wrong road. I got into drugs, alcohol, and I'm so grateful that I dug myself out of that lifestyle. But it's also got to do with all the oppression that's happened to our people, and when we come together and we support each other, and we let each other know that we've all have went through these issues and these setbacks one time or another, but that it's possible to get out of it, and that we always remember where we come from. And it's the land, it's the animals, it's the water, we are interconnected to all of these. This is our identity as Indigenous people. So it's very personal for me. The fight is very personal, and I know I get the little pushback sometimes because I maybe use my voice too much, but I genuinely care. Yeah. I care. I really do, and
Well, that's good. More people need to.
I agree.
What are your main duties and goals at this time?
So right now, before the 2017, when Trump's administration, he opened our sacred lands to oil and gas development. They snuck it into a rider into the tax bill, which it had absolutely nothing to do with. Ever since then, we've been working on reversing the law to keep them out of there, especially right now when Alaska, we are dealing with climate change. We're thawing 3 times faster, almost 3 times faster than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We have 33 coastal communities that are dealing with erosion, falling into the ocean, dead birds falling out of the sky, and dead fish floating in our rivers and our lakes. So what we're doing is we have continued to go to Washington, D.C., trying to reverse the law and put protections back into the Arctic Refuge. On top of that, we're going to the United Nations, where we just found out that we submitted a 10,000-word report about our human rights violations, and they want to publish it.
That's good.
So on top of that, we're also been going to financial institutes. We went to New York, and we visited some banks.
Yeah.
And Goldman Sachs actually came out and said they will not fund any activity in the Arctic Refuge, which was a big deal for us, because it's not easy traveling to other places and trying to convince them that our ways of life matter.
Yeah.
Trying to convince people that are never going to understand our way of life, that that this is our identity. And the one thing I always tell them is that we respect the way you want to live. You guys need to respect the way we live.
Yeah.
And we're simple people. We're humble people. We don't take more than we need. That's how our hunters are. We don't overkill. We just take what we need. And so we're continuing to do that. And then on top of that, we're going to gas and shareholder meetings, which isn't always, they're not always so welcoming.
Yeah.
But like I said, our elders, in 1988, they directed us to go out and tell the world that we are here, to do it in a good way and not to compromise our position. Now, that do it in a good way, that's a very simple sentence, right?
Yeah.
But it's not always easy, especially when we're up against so much dishonesty and misleading statements, especially from our own state leaders.
Yeah.
Like Murkowski and Sullivan, that something is a little bit insulting is that Sullivan doesn't even know that there's different natives in Alaska. He kind of bands us all together. And when you're representing a whole state, you should educate yourself.
Yeah.
Educate yourself on what is important to your constituents. And so, we're just continuing to go out, as our elders told us, and to always do things in a good way. And like I said, it's not easy. We have to work together with people that we don't always agree on everything with, but protecting the Arctic Refuge and our sacred land is our mandate. And we're also going to be going around throughout Alaska and try to inform the rest of the people here what's going to happen. What's something that I'm very proud of, that we just worked on, is we designed our very first Witch in Youth Council. And we have 7 youth from Alaska and Canada. And they're just doing amazing. They're all hunters. They're they fish in the summer, and they really live and survive off the land. And so I just been uplifting their voices, and that's, out of all the work I've done, that is one of my most that's one I'm very proud of.
That's good. I like hearing that, you standing up.
I agree.
Where are you now?
I'm in Fairbanks. I leave on Sunday to Missoula. In the work, we do a lot of partnerships with a lot of people that do films, and we just worked on one with Robert Redford co-produced, and it's going to be premiering on the 18th in Missoula, Montana. And so I'll be going down to speak down there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Progress.
It's just slow. It's like, man, it's
baby steps all the way.
This work has really taught me patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you tell another person who might be interested in hopping into your line of service and sacrifice?
Take care of yourself. To always pray. I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual. And that you always have to pray. You need to pray for your mind, your soul, and for your family. And to always remember what you're doing this for. During my time, I've been doing this. So I used to work for Gwich'in Steering Committee in 2011. Then 2005 and 6. I came back in 2011. And then in 2014, I came back. I started off as a part-time admin assistant, and now I'm the executive director. But one thing I know is that people can get egos.
Yeah.
It's easy. And so I always pray to stay humble and mindful. And so, and to always remember to include other people. You don't want to be the only one speaking. You have to share your knowledge. Welcome people. Include everybody, especially the youth. We always say, we got to do this for the youth, this for the youth. We have to include them. We have to uplift them. And in this work, I've seen, there's competitiveness and whatnot, but we are stronger together.
Yeah.
And so just always remember those, that's the kind of what I work by. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their work, but it has really helped me. It's helped me to stay grounded and just to remember, there's going to be a lot of non-Indigenous allies, and that they genuinely care. And don't 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 cause division. Find ways to work together, and just remember that we have children that are going to have to live with the aftermath of the decisions that we make.
Yeah, very true. What was the trigger point that made you say, I got to stand up and dedicate and devote my life to this cause?
My grandbabies. all the information that I know, I can't unknow now, right? Like it scares me. It scares the crap out of me, knowing what my grandchildren are going to live in if we do not start making some serious changes. And not just like, we can't just go and tell everybody else to make it. We have to make changes ourselves. You know, I cut down on trash use. I try not to use my vehicle as much as I used to. We're going to be biking more this summer. Just making changes ourselves, and just to remind each other to be kind to Mother Earth. If we take care of our land and our animals, that's what sustains us. That's what has sustained us for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And just to always be mindful of that.
That's good. Who's some leaders that you look up to for inspiration?
Trumbull Gilbert. Traditional Chief Trumbull Gilbert. He has, in this work, I try not to share any negativity with my elders, and also Randall Petlici on the Canadian side, Mary Snowshoe. These are all elders that I sometimes call one time or another. Gwich'in Steering Committee Board President Carolyn Lenny, Princess Dajai Johnson, Samuel Alexander. Some of these people are my age, and they really support me. When we don't agree, but we talk. That's what we need. Is we need people that we can agree to disagree. Because in this world right now, when people disagree, they're enemies, and that's not how our ancestors used to handle things. We talk, and so these people have really have been there for me, and there were times where I felt like quitting. Also, Dana Tija Tram, who is now the chief of Gwich'in First Nations, Kathy Tritt. So I have a pretty good support system. I appreciate all of them.
That's good.
Truly. Frankie Orna, Dave Ortez, Casey Cam. There's a lot.
Yeah. That's good though. It's good you got a lot of people supporting you. Okay. If you could work with anyone or anything in the world, who or what would it be?
The youth.
That's good.
The youth. I would continue to educate, update, and include the youth. After when I saw that question, I was like trying to think of, maybe Bernie Sanders or Deb Haaland, or I was kind of thinking about that. But after I always pray. Like I said, I'm a very spiritual person, and as I'm like, really, who would I want to work with? And it's the youth. I like all the work that I've done over the years. I can't take the credit for it. Everything I know comes from my elders, comes from my leaders. And just because I'm here, it don't make my voice more important. There's thousands of people that are going to be impacted. And sometimes it really makes me uncomfortable when they're like, Bernadette, congratulations. And I'm just like, this is not work that I do on my own, and I know that some people like that, but there's a whole, like I just named all those people. They all help. There's a lot of people that help behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that, so it's just not one person doing this work. And this is 30 years of work. And so it takes a lot. It takes a lot of people. And I appreciate all of them.
That's awesome. What currently are you working on?
So, like I said, the Blue Sky Film Festival is coming up next week.
What is that?
And then
that's the one in Montana.
Huh?
That's the one in Montana.
Yes, the public lands film, and then we're going to be the youth council, the Gwich'in Youth Council, is going to be having a rally in Fairbanks. They invite all the kids, all ages, to Fairbanks, and they're having it on March 18th, all youth-led. And then from there, we will be taking the whole youth council down to Washington, D.C.
Ooh.
For the 50-year anniversary of the Youth March, the climate Youth March that they have down there.
Oh.
And then right after that, we're going to Geneva to defend our report, Geneva, Switzerland, to defend our report that we submitted. And we'll be taking some youth council to that too.
Good luck on those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any events? Well, you pretty much went over that.
The Gwich'in Gathering is also, like I told you in the beginning in 1988, the Gwich'in elders and chiefs, they had their first gathering that was held in over 150 years. So every 2 years we come together and reaffirm our commitment. And the next one is in Old Crow, Yukon Territory, Canada. And it's July 20th through the 24th.
Okay. And that's going to be held where? That's going to be held in Fairbanks too?
It's going to be in Old Crow, Yukon Territory, Canada.
Okay.
And you can fly from there. You can also go to the Gwich'in Steering Committee Facebook page, and we kind of share how people can get there, and the airlines. And usually people will take boats, and so.
That's awesome. I like hearing that. Where do you see the future taking you in the retrieval of Alaska from these greedy corporate forces that have infiltrated our beautiful land and have been exporting out all our natural resources and pushing our people into poverty and spiritual, physical enslavement?
Right. So I see unity. I see a lot of us coming together in Alaska. I see us saying enough. If you look across, you know that one thing that we all will fight tooth and nail for is our food security, right? So I think that's what's going to bring us together. The salmon, the caribou, the whales, the moose, the birds, the Arctic Refuge. All their birds migrate there from all the states and from 6 different continents.
Oh.
And something I just learned was that even the whales go up there, and that's their calving. That's where they calve. And so the droppings from the birds makes the food grow for the animals.
Right.
And the porcupine caribou herd, they're the last land mammals on the planet that travel that distance. And it's in our backyard. It's in our home state. We have to protect these special places that connects all of us.
Yeah, I agree.
And the one more thing I just want to share is, if you look up north, a lot of that is open. This is just the remaining, 5%. They want to open that too. But you know, the open areas, the Prudhoe Bay area, and all the caribou herds have declined in that area, all of them. And I believe it's the central or the western one of it declined over 50% since 2010.
Oh my
so
gosh.
They can't tell us that our food security is not going to be impacted, not when we see different.
Yeah.
And this it just kind of hurts, because the stories that's been told to us is that the caribou, some of them people, they won't hunt the caribou because it makes them sick. And then
sad.
there's a little boy that he came to a council meeting, and he told them that he was sad because he couldn't swim because of all the dead fish in the river. And so, you know, stories like that don't get heard.
Yeah. Yep. Till now, it's important for people to hear this stuff. What kind of events, collabs do you fantasize about having in the future?
Something I really want to do. So I really believe in our youth. I do. I just believe they have so much to offer. And so what I would like to do is I want to put our youth in a van and just go across country and let them share the stories and the impacts that they have already saw. And then the other thing is, I would like to get musicians together, you know, and let them play music for the Arctic Refuge, play music for the people, for the land, for the animals, and I would just like to see us try to understand each other, that whether we are mothers or not, a lot of us are aunties. Many of you guys are uncles, fathers, and we have children that we love. And the kind of environment that we're going to leave them in has to be our concern. We have to do what we can for them. We don't last forever.
Yeah.
And that if you love your child, then educating yourself on these issues, on climate issues, is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our youth. Feel bad for them.
Yeah. You know, I spoke at the United Nations last year, and this lady was like, we got to, the youth. And I was like, I had to bite my tongue, and I said, the youth, we can't just leave it up to them. This is not a problem that they created.
Yeah.
We can't stand behind them. We have to stand beside them.
Yeah.
And when I walked out of that panel after we were done, there was like youth standing there waiting, and
they were ready to go.
Yeah, they were like, thank you for saying that, because a lot of them do feel, and they shouldn't have to feel that pressure. Yeah. They shouldn't have to feel that this is their problem. I think it's good to include them, but this is not a fight that they have to deal with on their own. We have to be there. We have to do this with them.
Yeah. They need our guidance and support and love and all that.
Absolutely.
Who are some people in Alaska you see making a difference?
Oh, that's a good question. So, Ine, she's with the Native movement. I see her making a difference. I see a lot of really good people that, you know, there's so much work nationally and internationally and in the state. Ine Begay Peter, she's from Arizona. I have seen her come and just really use her wisdom and knowledge to educate our people. She's married to Yvonne. The other is also Eddie Alexander. He's Gwich'in. I'm not trying to just name Gwich'in people, but they have made they share their knowledge.
Right.
Um,
That's important.
the other, yes, and Kwana Potts. She's such a young leader, and ever since she got on the board, it amazes me because I'll just tell her something that morning. That afternoon, she's sharing it. And that's all it is, right? Everything that we know, we hear from our leadership. And so I'm very impressed by her. Let's see who else. Shauna Brooks is another leader that's up and coming. Isa Sikanuk. He's a young leader. I really hope someday that I see him as our governor. Yeah, so there's a lot of Alaska Natives that are stepping up and
making an impact.
And it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy because people want the oil money. People want a dividend, but they don't realize that when you push for those dividends, it's destroying our land. It's not black and white, you know. We have to protect what we have.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about the current Alaska, and how do you think are ways that we can get everything back on track before we lose everything?
It's concerning because I don't even think a lot of us, our own people, know about the impacts that are happening right now to our coastal communities, to the south of Alaska, north. Like, we're only, you know, we know what's important to us, but I think we need to have a meeting where we come together and share the impacts that we are seeing. We just had the Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit in Fort Yukon last summer, and the Youth Council, I'm going to ask them to host the next one. So we're going to try to look at some places where we could reach out, see if we can have it in another community, Alaska community. But we had, even Joel Clement was there, you know, he's the scientist, the whistleblower for the Trump administration. He came. We had a lot of traditional, our elders, our scientists. You know, we need to have more of that gathering, coming together, educating each other. And so I just hope something like that can happen where we bring our people together and stop the destruction of our homelands.
Yeah.
Because some people are just going full board encouraging it, not understanding the impact that it's having.
Yeah, and it definitely will leave some. Are you event prejudiced, or do you speak and work with all genres, venues, and or talent, skills, artists, visionaries, or just people looking to make a positive difference? Who?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't look at people by the color of their skin or what they do. If they want goodness in this world, then I enjoy working with that. You know, there's a lot of people that use religion, but their religion is not very good for people of color, right? So I think that Creator is good, is love, is kindness, compassion. And some people just think that it's their way or no way. Yeah. And I enjoy working with the people that want to leave our environment, Mother Earth, and treat people with kindness.
Yeah. That's who I like to work with too. Where would you say our relationship stands with Canada and the rest of the world in battling these corrupt corporate military entities who've been kidnapping, murdering, raping Mother Earth's resources, and pillaging any natural order of life from our planet? Where do we stand with the rest of the world?
So, you know, that's there's good people no matter where we're at. There's good people. For instance, when I first went to Texas, you know, they always say Alaska and Texas are oil states. I was worried about going down there, truly, because I was going down to speak at ConocoPhillips shareholder meeting. And I always heard about, this is. So when I got there, I was very surprised about the support that I got. We had people show up, Indigenous people. And that's when I realized, like, there's good people everywhere. So, there's us and the rest of the world. Our government, I don't think, is doing a very good job. But with that being said, they do not speak for me. They do not speak for my heart. And, the one thing that I always tell people when I go to the bank visits, because it's different talking to them, I tell them first, you have to remember that you are a human being before you are, an executive here. You are a human being, and you have to ask yourself, am I violating these people's human rights? Am I destroying their food security? And that we all deserve respect. Like, we're not asking for anything. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for schools, for jobs. We are simply asking to live off land and the animals that has sustained us for thousands of years.
Yeah,
we may not be, we may not be rich with money, but we are rich in our culture. We are rich in our land, our animals, and that's the difference between us and them, is that, we don't see the richness with money.
Yeah, because there is none.
See the richness, with what Creator blessed us with.
Well, if you ain't rich in substance and with your spirit, then you're not rich at all in my book. Any worldwide announcement you'd like to premiere for our audience tonight?
Just to keep an eye out on the Youth Council, uplift your youth. It's important. I remember when I was young, I always heard our people, the youth, but they never did anything. Let's do more for them. And let's support them. Let's teach them that the survival of our people depends on the survival of our land and our animals. I also would like to just let everybody know that about the Witchin Gathering again. This is our 16th biannual Witchin Gathering. And just keep an eye out for the Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit. We are looking for a place to have it. No money, they won't have to worry about the money part. I will write, grants, and I will look for funding for it. But the Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit is to bring Indigenous people together to talk about the impacts of climate change in their area. And this can be anywhere. Last year, we had people from up north, from down south. We had as going far as Texas, Canada. So we are looking for somewhere to have it. We will host, we will pay for it, and maybe a committee of people that can help us plan. We want to include everyone. And then the other thing is the wilderness bill. Restoring the Arctic Refuge. That's also in the Senate, and just keep an eye out for the wilderness bill. And that's to, it's been introduced for the last 20 years. So that's also going to be coming out. And last but not least is the record of decision by the Department of Interior for the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. So when they open the refuge, they are supposed to have consultation. I wouldn't call it a consultation. They just came here and told us what they were going to do. they left out many communities that will be impacted. And they were supposed to do seismic testing last year, but they didn't have enough snow. You have to have a certain amount of snow. And, they want to bring in 90,000 pound vehicles into our sacred land. And they want to blow 63,000 tons of force into the ground. And there's a 52% chance they'll run over denning polar bears and smaller animals. And they still want to do it. So I just encourage you to speak up for your home state. Speak up for our animals. Speak up for our water. Speak up for our land. Because we're the ones who's going to have to live with the decisions that these people make. And it's time that we start putting our differences aside and come together as our ancestors once did.
Yep, it's going to take a whole army.
I know it is.
So now that we covered Miss Bernadette, the leader, state representative, now let's get into the beautiful Alaskan Native side of Miss Bernadette. What's your zodiac sign?
Taurus.
You're a Taurus? Birthday's coming up.
Yep.
What would you like to say to your fellow beautiful Alaskan Natives?
Be proud of who you are. We are beautiful people. And that doesn't only mean by our looks, but it means what you carry in your heart. I know a lot of us have been through many ups and downs. A lot of us have done things in our lives that we're not proud of. But no matter how far down the wrong road you go, you can always turn around. And just remember that, we're stronger together. We need each other. Believe in yourself. Damn it, believe in yourself. Because I know that's hard sometimes. But, our ancestors survived some of the coldest, harshest winters so that we can be here. And we owe that same dedication and respect to our future generations.
Yes, ma'am. How'd you like growing up in Alaska?
I love it. I love the cold. I know a lot of people don't like the cold, but I do. I love the seasons. And one thing is, like, when I go to Anchorage, I am so cold. I can feel the coldness in my bones. But up here or in Fort Yukon, I can deal with it. But all the traveling that I've done, I went to Texas, DC, New York, and then London, Scotland, and there's no place like home. There's no place like Alaska.
Exactly.
we have it, you guys. This is it. This is the way God made it. This is the way Creator made it in the beginning, and we have to protect it. Like, it is so beautiful. And honestly, I lived in Alaska. I'm 43, I think. I don't know. I was born in 76. I'm 43 or 44 or something around there. But I have never been to the hot springs.
Never
never been to the hot springs.
Every time.
We live in a beautiful state. But yeah, just enjoy our home. It's so beautiful. I sometimes forget that when we take things for granted, you know.
My personal thought, I think all life started in Alaska. Kind of, I have a feeling, just like how the cabin grounds and the whales and caribous and everything come up here.
Right. Well, we're Dene, right? And so there's some stories that go back, like they say, 16,000 years ago. The Athabascans migrated up this way, and then up here we say, they migrated down that way. And this is what I say: why would we migrate somewhere colder?
Yeah.
So they definitely went down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, I have learned so much. I have learned so much during this time, and I've learned more in the last 5 years than I've done in my whole entire life. And I am so proud to be Indigenous. I am so proud to be someone that has found, you know, my identity as a Gwich'in. And, you know, I know there's people, half-breed, whatever, you know, whatever keeps your boat afloat. I love the land, and I don't care what color anybody's skin is. If you love the land, you love the land. And that is what matters. And,
Yeah. Where your heart's at.
Mother Earth is mother to us all, as long as we respect her.
How about some important lessons or stories from your elders you'd like to share?
So, you know, like I said, after high school, I really went down a bad path. And I went up to Arctic Village. There's a mountain called Shunle. And when I went up there, I just felt really overwhelmed. I started crying, and I asked for forgiveness for being disconnected so long, but that I'm here now to share in my responsibility as a Gwich'in. And you know, no matter where you are in this world, no matter where you live, you know, our spirits are going to live forever, and there's got to be a place mentally, spiritually, and physically that you can go, and that's my place.
That's up there with
but
me
my
too.
heart will always be in the Yukon Flats, you know. And another story that I was told is that one of our elders, when we used to migrate with the caribou, we used to migrate with them, and he said that they had stuff for everybody to do. Everybody had a job, even the little kids. And he said he had this stick that held up the corner of the like a shelter. And he said that he always took care of it. He said as he got older, he got the bigger stick in the middle. And he said that everybody had a you know, a task.
Yeah.
And he said that I wish I could show you guys, but he said that they would make 4 areas for the food. And you know, once they are done migrating with the caribou, there's like 4. And it goes August, September, October, November, December, January, February, and March. Then they would get up and start migrating again with them. So, you know, as Gwich'in people, our creation story tells us that there was a time we were able to communicate with the caribou. We made a pact to always take care of each other. And a piece of the caribou heart is in my heart, and a piece of my heart, our heart as Gwich'in people, lies within the caribou. And you know, when I hear that story, it really gives me hope. And one of our older, he's passed on now, his name is Jonathan Solomon. In 2005, when I was working at Gwich'in Steering Committee, all the ideas I had back then, I'm doing now. But because of my age, nobody listened.
Right.
So I remember when I was working there, for some reason, I just felt unworthy, you know. And he told me this, and this is what I always carry. So I was talking in Albuquerque, and I was talking alongside scientists. What are those people that look at the sky, the stars and all that?
Yeah, astronomer or something.
Archaeologists or
astronomer.
Yeah, and doctors, and I just felt so out of place, and I was just shaking, and I was nervous because I was like, there's just me. Like, what do I know? And I remember Jonathan Solomon It's like, you're the expert of the land. We're the experts of these lands. But he told me, I went to the 3rd grade, and I'm standing up to one of the biggest governments in the world. If you have it in your heart, you have it. And when I was there, I remembered that. And, I just want to share that to everybody. If you have it in your heart, if you care, you have it. And nobody can take that from you.
Yeah, very true. Favorite native food?
Dry meat. I love dry meat. Even star caribou. Even though I live in Fairbanks, my freezers are full of traditional food.
Hungry now. How do you see yourself making a positive impact on the world coming from Alaska?
Sharing love, like kindness and compassion. There's always a way that we can communicate with people without being bitter and rude and arrogant. And truthfully, like, I've dealt with it all. Like, I've dealt with people, I go to people and they because of the corporations, they tell me that I sold out Alaska for oil, and just, like, I've got just about every disrespect that there is. But I always pray in my mind while I'm speaking. Even now, while I'm speaking to you, I just ask Creator, give me the right words to say. Help me to stay humble and mindful. And I want to be the best that I can be for our people. And so, just to always be kind, and always remember that you're not representing yourself. So you're representing your people, and to always remember that.
Good advice. What does Alaska need to work on itself in order to push forward?
Lateral violence. I think I know that probably people aren't going to like that, but it's the truth. We need to uplift each other. No more competitive behavior. We're stronger together. We're stronger together. We're stronger together. And we can make a difference if we stand together. I just can't even express that enough. Renewable energy. We get daylight, like we could be doing so much more instead of believing in what these corporations are telling us. And people need to understand that corporations do not have human rights.
Yeah. And
corporations do not represent the indigenous peoples in
represent
Alaska.
Profit.
Yes. And it's a tribe versus corporations. I do appreciate them giving out the money for education, but they can't destroy our land on top of, to benefit that. It's just, we need to start educating ourselves on these issues and working together. Alaska is so beautiful, and we just have so much intelligent people. Really, there's so much intelligent people, but nobody wants to speak because of lateral violence.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we need to work on.
What's your favorite place you've been to in Alaska?
My Fort Yukon. No, I'm just joking. Wait, let me think. Let me think. I would probably, I would say the Yukon Flats. I would say driving from Circle to Fort Yukon.
Very beautiful.
It's very beautiful, but so is driving from Fort Yukon to Birch Creek. Birch Creek is a very beautiful, it's got, the bends are just really windy, but it's a very beautiful place.
I've never been out that way. I'd like to see it one day. Where can we expect to see you in the future spreading your work of Alaska? Any place on the map in particular?
I would probably say the United Nations is the next coming up, and we just testified before the House of Representatives in Congress. We will definitely go back down there to show our support to congressional leaders if that's needed. Hopefully we get a new president, somebody that will start protecting our lands. I know a lot of people like to use environment, but it's our lands.
Yeah.
So, and then to the United Nations to defend the report that we submitted to them.
Okay. Favorite color?
Purple.
Purple? Ooh, that's a good one.
Purple.
How about your hobbies?
Oh, I'm too busy to have hobbies. I would say I like to spend time with my grandsons.
Being grandmama?
Yeah, I like spending time with them. In the summer, I like walking. And one thing that I really like doing, ever since my son passed away in November, is I love looking at the sky. I love looking at the moon and the stars. And after that, I started realizing I remember doing that when I was a little girl. My mom put my bed by the window, and I used to watch it all the time. So I definitely
reconnected.
That really got me. I go outside and take pictures. Yeah.
How about shout-outs? You got any special shout-outs you want to give?
Sure. I'd like to shout out to Princess Dajai Johnson. She's the co-producer of Molly of Denali. Shelby Fisher-Salmon, who will be going to the United Nations to speak on behalf of the Gwich'in for the language. To Isaiah Horace, who is a youth who's making his own beaded moose slippers and vest. And to my mom, Betty, you're the reason I am who I am today. I thank you for all my... I know I drove you nuts, and thank you for not giving up on me. And just also to my husband, Jason, and to Angelica, Peter, Bo, Thomas, and Lexine. I love you. Those are my kids.
Yes, ma'am. One more time, tell people where to find you and how to get in touch.
Sure. The Gwich'in Steering Committee Facebook, or my Facebook is Bernadette Demientieff, Demientieff, or Instagram is Berna_Demientieff. I also have Twitter, and then our website is ROURARTICREFUGE.org. arcticrefuge.org.
Yes, ma'am. Any special announcement, gifts, or offerings for the group?
No, I don't think so. We'll just let me know if you guys need my help with anything. I'm always down to help and support. I just understand that we all are dealing on top of work. Like, this is not work for us. Many of us, it's not a 9 to 5. We can't shut up or worry if we're going to be forced to move from our community, or the struggle is real. So if I could be of assistance, if I could be an assistance or anything, I'm always open to helping.
Very nice. Well, that about wraps it up, Ms. Bernadette. I'll be in touch in about a year or so for a follow-up. Right now, I'm going to give the group a chance to chime in, and then we shall conclude our interview. Happy New Year, and stay beautiful from the top of the world. Bless, happy Valentine's, all that good stuff.
Happy Valentine's.
Yep.
Merci, Joe.
And that wraps it up.
Okay.